When you reach the SOPHIA stage, there is nothing left to hold on to, Jung explained. There comes a silent moment in some people's lives when everything that once felt essential simply loses its meaning. It's not depression, it's not weakness, it's something deeper, more dangerous, and at the same time, more liberating. That moment has a name, and very few are prepared to face it. And the most unsettling part? You may already be in it, without realizing it. If you are seeking knowledge and wisdom to understand the invisible signs of the human mind, to recognize deep inner transformations, and to develop emotional clarity so you don't lose yourself in the process, then you are in the right place. Subscribe now, because what you are about to hear may completely change the way you see yourself. It all begins almost imperceptibly. Small things stop making sense. Conversations that once engaged you now feel empty. People who once felt essential now feel distant, even when they are right beside you. You begin to notice patterns in yourself, in others, in the world. And this is only the beginning, because what comes next goes even deeper. The mind starts questioning everything, not just the world around you, but your own identity. Who are you? What truly matters? Why do so many things that once felt urgent now feel irrelevant? This is the point where most people turn back. But those who continue enter a territory few can describe, and even fewer can understand. This is where what some call the SOPHIA stage begins. A stage where knowledge is no longer just information, it becomes awareness. It is not something you learn, it is something you become. And the further you go, the more you realize there is no returning to who you once were. And that can be terrifying, but what comes next is even more profound. You begin to detach, not by conscious choice, but because you simply can't hold on anymore. Intense emotions begin to lose their grip. Drama fades. Conflict no longer makes sense. And this creates a strange emptiness, almost uncomfortable. Because without these stimuli, who are you? And that is exactly where the real transformation begins. An inner silence starts to grow, not the absence of thought, but a clarity that cuts through illusion. You begin to see hidden motivations in people. You recognize emotional games, subtle manipulation, repetitive patterns, and the most unsettling part, you realize you were once part of it too, and that changes everything in ways most people are not ready to face. Then comes the solitude. Not the kind of being alone, but the feeling of no longer fitting in. You can be surrounded by people and still feel that no one truly understands what is happening inside you. And this may make you question if something is wrong, but in truth, it's a sign that something is finally right. Because at this stage, you no longer seek validation. You no longer need to prove anything. You no longer feel the need to be accepted. And that is liberating, but also dangerous. Because without those external anchors, you are confronted with something much greater, something that cannot be ignored. You begin to see that many relationships were built on need, not genuine connection. And this changes how you position yourself. You step back, not out of arrogance, but out of clarity. And this may be perceived as coldness, as indifference, but in reality, it is simply awareness. And at this point, people around you begin to react, because when you change, you expose what others are still avoiding, and that creates discomfort. Some may try to pull you back, They may question your transformation. They may even try to make you doubt yourself. But what you realize next makes it impossible to go back. You begin to understand that most people are living on autopilot, reacting, repeating, avoiding themselves. And you can no longer be part of that. Not out of superiority, but because it simply no longer makes sense. And this creates a distance that only grows over time. But then something unexpected happens. The emptiness begins to transform into peace. That absence of meaning starts to give way to a new way of being, a way where you no longer chase meaning because you become the meaning. And this completely changes how you live, and more importantly, how you respond to the world. You realize you no longer need to control everything. You no longer need to understand everything. You no longer need to hold on to anything. And this is not giving up, it is freedom. A freedom few reach because it requires letting go of everything most people are still trying to hold on to. And this is where the phrase finally makes sense. There is nothing left to do but let go. But this letting go is not passive. It is not weakness. It is an act of deep understanding. It is recognizing that trying to control life was the greatest illusion of all. And when that becomes clear, something inside you changes irreversibly. You begin to act with precision. You speak less, but with more impact. You engage less, but with more truth. And people notice this, even if they cannot explain it. Because there is something different about you now, something that cannot be faked and cannot be learned on the surface. And this awakens two types of reactions. Some will distance themselves because they cannot handle the change. Others will be drawn closer, trying to understand what you have become. And this is where wisdom is required, because not everyone who approaches you comes with good intentions. But the most important shift is happening within you. You stop reacting impulsively. You stop getting lost in temporary emotions. And you begin to live with a clarity that does not depend on external circumstances. And this is rare, extremely rare, because most people go through life without ever reaching this point. And when you realize that, one final understanding emerges. You understand that this entire process was never about the world. It was always about you, about removing layers, about letting go of illusions, about seeing beyond the narratives you once believed in. And when that happens, there is no returning to your previous state. And perhaps this is the hardest part to accept. Because once you see, you cannot unsee. Once you understand it, you cannot pretend you don't. And once you reach this stage, there is nothing left to hold on to, only to let go. And now, the real question is not whether this makes sense to you. The real question is, have you reached this stage, or are you still trying to avoid what it reveals?